Hello, wonderful story lovers, and welcome back to our magical world of tales. Today, we re-jumping back down the rabbit hole with Alice for another curious chapter from Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Are you ready for a race where everyone's a winner? Let's begin. When we last saw Alice, she had just escaped her own giant tears and found herself swimming in a salty pool with a mouse, a duck, a dodo, a lory, and an eaglet. Splish, splash. They were all soaking wet and a little bit chilly. How will we ever get dry? Chirped the little birds. The dodo, a very serious-looking bird, thought for a moment and then declared the best thing to get us dry would be a caucus race. "What is a caucus race?" asked Alice. She wasn't used to such peculiar words. "Why," said the dodo, "the best way to explain it is to do it." So, he marked out a sort of circle on the ground. There was no 1, 2, 3, and away. Instead, everyone began running whenever they felt like it, and stopped whenever they wanted to. It was the silliest, most mixed-up race you could ever imagine. They ran in circles, zigzags, and wobbly lines. Alice found herself laughing as she trotted along next to a puffin. After about half an hour, they were all quite dry. The dodo suddenly shouted, "The race is over." Everyone gathered around him, panting and asking, "But who has won?" This was a tricky question. The dodo thought for a long, long time. Finally, he pointed his wing and announced, "Everybody has one, and all must have prizes." Well, this was wonderful news. The animals all crowded around Alice, chirping and quacking. Prizes. Prizes. Poor Alice didn't know what to do. Luckily, she found a box of sweets in her pocket. There was exactly one for each of them. She handed them out, and the animals happily began to munch on their prizes. "But she must have a prize herself, you know," said the mouse. Of course, the dodo agreed. He asked Alice, "What else have you got in your pocket?" "Only a thimble," said Alice sadly. "Hand it over here," said the dodo. Alice gave him the thimble. Then, with great ceremony, the dodo presented the thimble back to Alice, saying, "We beg your acceptance of this elegant thimble," and all the other animals cheered. Alice thought the whole thing was very absurd, but they all looked so serious that she didn't dare laugh. Now that they were dry and had their prizes, they all sat down again. Alice politely asked the mouse, "You promised to tell me your history, you know. Why is it you hate C and D?" she said, remembering not to say the words cats and dogs. "Mine is a long and a sad tale," began the mouse, sighing deeply. "It is a long tale, certainly," said Alice, looking down at the mouse's tail in wonder. "But why do you call it sad?" And as the mouse spoke, Alice kept picturing his story winding and turning just like his long, curvy tail. The mouse told a rhyming story, a tale that looked like a tale on the page of the book. It was full of confusing twists and turns about a fury and a mouse, all about a trial with no jury. It was so full of wordplay that Alice got quite mixed up. "You are not attending?" said the mouse sternly. "I beg your pardon," said Alice, very humbly. "You had got to the fifth bend, I think?" "I had not," cried the mouse very angrily. "A knot." "Oh, do let me help to undo it," said Alice, always ready to be helpful. But this only made the mouse crosser. He jumped up and scurried away into the woods. "I wish I hadn't mentioned it," Alice sighed. And just like that, the peculiar caucus race was over, and the sad, long tale had come to an abrupt end.
What adventure will Alice find next?
Thank you for joining our story time today. Hope you enjoyed the silliest race in all of Wonderland. If you loved our tale, please give us a big thumbs up, and do unforget to subscribe so you won't miss our next adventure. Until then, keep reading and keep wondering. Bye for now.